Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jason Thompson. I'm a Senior Research Fellow here at the University of Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. And we're going to be going through a model today, which is an industry-driven model. And I'm going to be telling you all about that. It's an agent-based model of a workplace injury insurance system. What I'm going to focus on today is really not so much about the mechanics of the model itself, but our efforts to try to embed some of these types of modelling techniques into industry decision-making and strategic decision-making. So here we go. A little bit of background for you. I'm not a computer scientist or anything. I'm actually a clinical psychologist by training, and these are the sorts of things that I'm interested in. So I'm interested in systems, I'm interested in injuries, I'm interested in insurance schemes. A lot of people think insurance schemes are boring. I don't. I actually think they're really interesting. So who knows? So why are workplace injuries and insurance systems so important to study? Well, firstly, injuries and insurance schemes, well, they have to handle there's about 3 million people a year who are killed in occupational injuries, and that's just deaths. That's not even long-term injuries or short-term injuries or anything like that. So this is a huge burden that people have to deal with, and both individuals have to deal with it, and also the health system has to deal with this. They're also interesting to study because they have multiple roles. So they often have conflicting roles. So for instance, many of the systems in Australia, in the Australian states, they have to both raise awareness about the importance of safety and workplace safety in organisations, and they also have to regulate that. So they have to enforce the laws that they perhaps help to set up. So they have to be sort of nice, but also come down pretty heavily sometimes as well. And they also usually have a role in helping injured workers get back to work. So this makes their role, it's conflicted in some respects, or they have, like any high performance health scheme, what they're trying to do is both improve health as much as they can, but they're trying to do it in the most cost-effective way possible. So sometimes that means spending money, sometimes it means not spending money, but then they're also trying to be responsive to people's non-medical expectations as well. And some of these organisations are right in the thick of a lot of political debate, often between unions and also small business, so that they're often very politicised organisations. Our team's history of utilising agent-based modelling in injury prevention and recovery is kind of broad. We do anything from cycling injury and traffic models to recovery models, so how people go through recovery systems and how they might exhaust the range of treatment options that are out there for them, right through to other traffic simulation models which have an economic overlay. So what are the incentives or the economic incentives in systems for people to act either safely or unsafely, and also modelling some of the way people go through common law systems as well. So, it's a wide range of things that we're interested in modelling. The main thing that we're trying to do with these sorts of models, though, is to embed the models into better strategic policy making. So here's an example from some work we did a while ago, where we asked a range of executives from an insurance system to select from among a number of models that they had built themselves, if you like, to determine which one of those systems would operate best, and then to be able to explain that to other people. So this is a similar sort of piece of work that we wanted to do here for in the WorkSim model. And so the goal of this project was to create an agent-based model, a digital twin that enabled this organisation to explore the effect of their strategic health, safety and workers' compensation scheme policy settings on the performance of the system. The model was designed to assist understanding of the dynamic relationships between system settings and actors and outcomes, and how these combine to optimise scheme performance, or how they could be combined to optimise scheme performance. The process that we went through, we take the process, we stick pretty carefully to this process in this textbook by Van Dam, Nikolic, and others, Agent-Based Modelling of Socio-Technical Systems. They have a very good 10-point structure for developing and implementing models, and we stick to that as much as we can. So the model itself combined two things. We're really keen for it to combine two things. So this is the structure that it's built on. So a lot of organisations will have state charts about how people will move through their system or how goods will move through this system, etc. So in this instance, what we have is a person who is injured. They either go into acute care, yes or no. That determines whether they or how they lodge an injury claim. That claim might be accepted or rejected. If it's rejected, it might be disputed. It might come back again. If the dispute's successful, then we have a range of treatment options that people have access to. Some people might have had their claim disputed and then it just goes out of the system, so it's not counted. But eventually, everything comes through until the person has met recovery thresholds in terms of health, and they also meet return to work requirements, and then they would return to work. So this is a fairly standard sort of state chart, and which describes the processes or the stages that any agent, any injured worker agent, moving through the model might be in at any particular time. But that's only interesting to some extent. What's more interesting is the combination of the state chart with this causal loop diagram, which really describes the incentives in the system and the relationships between different actors in the system and how it actually works. So not just the state that an agent goes from one place to another, but what are the influences that would mean that someone might be more likely to move from one state to another, and what are the incentives and goals of individual agents in the system. Again, I won't go through the detail of that, but if anyone would like more explanation of how this works, then I'm happy to follow up with people. So then we built all that into a dynamic interface in NetLogo, where on the left-hand side here, we can sort of see the way in which the organisation is set up at the moment. But these are the things that I suppose the organisation doesn't really have the ability to change. So this is the environment that it's kind of stuck with, if you like. So how many injured workers are coming in at any particular time, whether those injuries change or not at various time steps, how the external environment is set up. Down here, we have a set of policy levers that the organisation has access to, and it can change any of these at any particular time. So it might decide to spend more on advertising. It might decide to change who is eligible for an accepted claim. It might decide how long someone's eligible claim could be, whether we should emphasise recovery at work or recovery in treatment, etc., etc. So these are sort of common things that an organisation or an insurer might have access to. And over here, we have the performance of the organisation. So how much money is it spending at any time? What state are people there in at any time? What are the return to work outcomes that people have, how satisfied are people with the system, and how much trust do they have in the system at any time, and what does the incoming cohort of injured workers look like. The thing we want to do next is that we want to develop this into we're developing up this model in a game engine. It's been presented back to the organisation and it's great, but we want the user interface to be much cleaner. So we're doing the same thing, but we're developing it in the Godot game engine. We want to do this because we want to both make we want to overcome some of the issues around trust in the model and also access to the model. At the moment, it's very difficult to distribute NetLogo models to people. And the importance of this is that there's some, we want to, at the moment, we're sort of down here on this. I don't know if people have seen the uncanny valley idea before, which is really about, you can have a stick figure or you can have a teddy bear or that sort of thing, and people will accept that. But if you get too close to reality, then you end up with this sort of strange sort of humanoid robot zombie style representation. So you either have to sort of stay this side of the uncanny valley in your representation of the system, or you have to get right over and be perfect. And this is really difficult here. So this might be 10 times as much work as it is to stay on this side. But at the moment, I think in the net logo representation, we're kind of about here, and we really need to get up here. And that's where we're hoping Godot engine and possibly other game engines can help us out. We think there are four keys to successful development and implementation of these sorts of models with industry. Firstly, you obviously need a valid and comprehensive understanding of the states and relationships contained within the system. Secondly, we need a faithful and accurate representation of the system into code. We think we have that these two elements pretty much nailed now. But then you also need a transparent and easily understood visual abstraction and representation of the system in the model interface, because remember, we're talking about working with organizations that have thousands of people. We might develop it up with 4 or 5 of them or 6 of them, but then we have to get the rest of the organization to also trust this model as well. So it needs to be very well understood and intuitive from other users' perspectives, and that will help us get trust among potential users. At the moment, I feel like we've got these 2 things going quite well, but we really need to work on these. I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please get in touch. If you're really good at Godot, please get in touch, or you can either email me here, or get me on Twitter, or ask questions through CompSys as well. Thanks to CompSys for putting on this little online conference, and thanks for your attention.